Hey y'all, I'm going to do this video on childbirth, and my glasses aren't on, but this is my first video without my glasses. Alright, I was looking up some comedy myself on YouTube regarding childbirth, and there's a really funny one by Robin Williams if you want to look it up. But every one that you will find is done by a man, so here is some comedy by a woman regarding childbirth. Or at least I'll try and make it funny, but let's see. Alright, when you first go into labor, it feels basically just like you're on your period, except like the cramps don't stop. And you're like wishing that they would stop, but they don't. But on the other hand, like it's not that scary because it's like, well, it's pain with a purpose, you know? Like you know that that's going to result in like a new life being born. So it's exciting. It's like you got mixed feelings of like excitement and dread and fear and just all kinds of feelings really that you're feeling when it's like, you know, when it's starting. But basically like your hips get real sore, like you feel like you got napalm injected into your hips or like you got some kind of crazy drug or something that makes you feel a lot of pain injected in your hips. That's what it feels like. Your hips are just like killing you, but I guess that's because they're expanding. So for me, when I was having my first contractions, my hips were hurting a lot in my lower back, so I asked my ex-husband to rub my hips, you know, massage them, and that really helped a lot. And then like I had a heat pack, and I tried, you know, I put like a heat pack on that area, and that helped. And then you're supposed to wait till your contractions are like 5 minutes apart before you go to the hospital. But my first time I went and they said I was too early, so we had to go home. And I was like, what? They had me like bounce on this ball for a while, and they're like, well, maybe if you do this, it'll speed it up. But it didn't really, so I still had to go home. And then we came back later. We came back like way later. That was in the morning at like 10 a.m. And we came back at like 7 p.m. So yeah, my contractions were going on for a long time. But then finally they were, you know, 5 minutes apart. So we went back to the hospital that evening. And I remember it was after dark, I think. And then they hooked me all up and everything. And then I was like, I feel like I have to go poop, you know. And they're like, oh no, that might mean that you're close to labor. And I was like, okay. And like I felt like they wouldn't let me go poop, and I was like, it'd be nice to be able to go poop. Once you get to the hospital, they don't let you eat anything or drink anything. They only give you these ice chips. And I was like, that's gonna be hard for me because I drink like a gallon of water a day. And I was like, man, that's hard. But I think they do that so you won't like pee all over the table or, you know, pee all over yourself or whatever. So you won't have to get up to go to the bathroom, you know, when you're laying down, you're in labor. So then they took me in this other room, and my mom suggested that I get pain meds in my IV. So I did, and like I was so doped up, like I felt like I was drunk like the whole time. And this lady that was my nurse, I was like talking to her, and I was just like thinking like, she's my new best friend. Like I think her and I should just be best friends like the rest of my life. And she was telling me she had like 5 kids or something. And I was like, how did you do this more than once? And she's like, well, you forget, you know, how painful it is. And I was like, okay, I guess. So, yeah, I got pain meds in my IV. I don't remember what it's called, but it definitely helped a lot. And then I remember when I was in labor, like I heard screaming, and it's like I didn't realize like, oh, that's me. Like it was like I was 2 different people or something. You know, like I was screaming, but then like in my mind I was like, who is that screaming? Yeah, because the pain meds definitely like helped. I didn't do the epidural because I heard from some friends. I like researched and emailed a bunch of girls on Facebook about that, and I was like, did you get the epidural, and do you think it was a good idea? And a lot of women were saying they had like permanent back pain from it, you know. And I was like, okay, well, I don't want to have that, so I didn't get the epidural. And my labor was 24 hours in total. I think that's from the time I had my first contraction to the time that my first daughter was born. And yeah, so it took a long time, but that's what happens when they give you pain meds. Like it kind of slows it down. And so in hindsight, I was kind of like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that because then it made it last longer, but then at least it didn't hurt as much. But then I remember when the crowning part happened, like, I didn't feel anything as far as like the baby coming out. I remember I had a coworker that said she felt when her baby was about to come out, she said she felt her hips split. But I think mine was more of a gradual process. Like my hips were gradually expanding. That's what the contractions do. Anyways, when the crowning part happened, that's like the worst part in labor because that is when your vagina is being stretched out. And I remember I asked the nurse, I was like, are you holding it open? And she's like, no, like that's the baby's head. And I was like, oh, but that part hurts pretty bad because, yeah, you're getting all stretched out down there and the skin's stretching out. And of course, it doesn't seem natural. Like it doesn't seem like that's supposed to be happening, but that's just part of child labor. So, once that part happens and you get stretched out down there, then the rest isn't too bad. The baby comes out, you just gotta push, and but then after that, I remember I felt like my pain meds had kind of worn off, and they didn't give me any more once the baby came out. But then the doctor still had to like stitch me up. Oh yeah, that was the other thing. Like I had this doctor that was just on call because my doctor was sleeping at the time because it was like 3 a.m. So this on-call doctor came in, and he like cut me down there. It's called an episiotomy, and like I wasn't wanting that, but anyways, I guess they do that to make it faster so the baby can come out easier. But then he for sure had to stitch me up afterwards, and like I felt it. I mean, I'm pretty sure I felt it 100%. Maybe it's more like 50%, but either way, like getting stitched up down there, obviously that's pretty like, it's like sensitive skin down there. So I was like, ow, and I was like praying the whole time. I think I kept saying, God help me, God help me, God help me. I said that like 100 times in a row. And so finally he was done. And then they gave me my first daughter. And honestly, my first reaction to her, which maybe was because I was still kind of doped up on the pain meds, I don't know. But I wasn't like, oh. I honestly felt like a little bit of like anger, like, like you just put me through all this pain. And but then they finally let me eat, and that was nice. They gave me like this lunch thing with like a sandwich. So that was nice. And then I did my first like breastfeeding thing. So I was eating while Serenity was, doing her first breastfeeding thing. And I was like, well, that's cool. Like it was pretty easy. And but then like the next day they got it all messed up because some nurse came in and tried to like show me how to breastfeed, and I was just like, I think they shouldn't even do that because you should be able to just naturally figure it out, like you and the baby. And it's just awkward having some random nurse like see you and like see your boobs and stuff. It's weird. But also like after my labor I had to go pee, and so my nurse was like, okay, I think you're okay to do that. So she helped me get out of the bed, and I sat on the toilet. And I blacked out when I was on the toilet, and it's a good thing she was there in the bathroom with me because she like caught me, or else I would have fallen off the toilet and like hit my head probably. And because you lose so much blood in labor, like women used to die all the time in labor, but that was before hospitals, and now like, you got people watching you, and the IV obviously helps, like they're pumping fluids into you, when you can't eat and stuff, so that's good. But yeah, so that was scary. And then my second labor, that one was a lot faster with my second baby. It was a year and 9 months later. And I went to the hospital, and the nurse was like, you're not in labor. And I was like, yes, I am. And she was saying I wasn't dilated enough down there, which that is the worst part. Like the nurse literally sticks her whole fist up your vagina, and like she has to like test how stretched out you are, how dilated you are. Anyways, they go by like 3 centimeters up to like 9 centimeters. And she was saying that I was like 2 centimeters or something. Anyways, I was like, what? She's like, well, we'll have to send you back home, which I probably should have just gone back home. But I felt like I was definitely in labor. And she's like, well, if you stay here, we have to give you Pitocin, which is a drug they give women to speed up their labor. And I seriously regret doing that because then I agreed. They gave that to me. My labor was like an hour. I mean, it just went real fast, and it hurt. And I didn't get any pain meds this time. And I was screaming the whole time. And the doctor was like, you have to stop screaming and push. And I was like, okay. So I did, and it was hard, but like, yeah, I think because of that, like, it sped up the labor to make it faster. And then my second girl, she came out kind of like blue. I didn't see her because, she was down there, but my husband saw her and he was like real sad about it. And like her umbilical cord was wrapped around her neck a few times. And I totally think that was because of the Pitocin, like they shouldn't give that to women to speed up their labor. And then like now currently I feel like one of her legs is a little bit off. Like, I don't know, like her feet aren't totally straight. And I wonder if that's why, like because of her delivery, that it was sped up, and I think that made her come out like, not perfect. But she's very smart, I think we were all worried that, since she had that and she came out blue, that she wouldn't be intelligent, but she's very smart. And she was actually smarter than my older daughter. Like, she learned words faster and she learned the alphabet faster, and she is really good at coloring, like coloring inside the lines. She's like an Einstein child, really. Which I think God did that also just so to confirm that she came out okay and she's not special in any way. But yeah, so that was hard. And I remember in my second delivery, I was screaming and I was like, I'm never doing this again. And afterwards, the doctor came into my room and he's like, so let's talk about birth control. And I was like, I'm okay. Like, we'll be fine. But after that, like, we did do birth control in a sense. Like, there's the pull-out method. And so my ex-husband would do that, and that's why I haven't gotten pregnant since then. And it's worked for, 3 or 4 years. So, yeah, so that's definitely a side note, too. Like, all you women who are trying, like, people spend so much money on birth control. Like, condoms are pretty expensive. And the birth control pill, I tried that way back when I was 22 and I had this other boyfriend. And it really caused me a lot of pain, like, in my ovaries or something. And I could feel it. And so I only took it for like 2 months. But I really don't recommend birth control pills, because I think that also if you're on those for a long time, then once you want to get pregnant, I think it's almost impossible, or it's a lot harder, because it causes like permanent damage or blockage for that to happen. That's just my theory. But anyways, so to all you couples out there, I recommend you just do the pull-out method. It's the healthiest way to, use contraception. It's the healthiest way of contraception. Anyways, so those are my thoughts on that. And if any of you are daring enough to get pregnant, make sure you have people praying for you, and just, trust that it's going to be okay, and just keep reminding yourself that it's just one day. It's not like a week, it's just one day, and you will be okay. And yeah, so God bless, and God loves you. Have a great day. Bye.